Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I am your host, Jenny Simon. And today we have some catching up to do. The past couple of weeks, we've been dealing with the health system and the saving of lives and livelihood. So we're going to do some catching up. We'll take a quick break and come right back and get into the meat of the matter.
Mount Pure natural mineral water begins as rainfall, which percolates through the untouched rainforest and rocks of the Roll River Mountain. This natural filtration system protects the water from pollution, giving us a unique collection of minerals from the natural underground artesian aquifer. The water then flows naturally to the surface under pressure without pumping. As it reaches the surface, it is directly piped and bottled at our processing facility. We ensure that the water stays pure and safe so that it is ready for you to enjoy the excellent taste and natural health benefits. Not all water can make the grade when it comes to natural mineral water. Mount Pure offers a consistent composition and purity, so we can tell you exactly what you are drinking. Mount Pure guarantees you a perfect taste every time. Don't say water, say Mount Pure. Taste the difference. Enjoy the benefits.
A couple episodes ago, right at the beginning, I complimented the government on the free tuition program. I still do compliment them on it because, as I said then, that whatever ease parents and guardians can get on their pockets when it comes to sending their children to school, whatever ease, it's good enough. Even if it's $1 less they have to come up with. Since then, however, I saw an interview with former Minister of Education, Honorable Emmeline Pear, and it was interesting. And I want to share snippets of that interview with you because I think it's worth seeing, it's worth listening to, and understand now where the opposition is coming from when it comes to free tuition across the board. Let's take a look at the clip and we'll come back and discuss.
Right. And I would start by saying anything that is done by this administration or any other administration where a student or any other person who deserve it will benefit, I support 100%. So I want to make that my preamble. So I totally, absolutely support that the government is going to be paying the tuition for anybody who wants to go to TAMCC or to NULO. Now, that being said, one of the things that concerns me is the different messages that we're hearing at what the government is doing. So I've heard government ministers saying, education is now going to be free. And you can now go to TAMCC and you can now go to NULO. And this new administration is transforming education. This was never done before. Then you hear another one say, we are going to be providing tuition support to students, and that's transformation. Now, these different messages leave me confused. I'm further confused having read the document, the supplementary budget document, that spoke about categories of students. And when you speak about categories, right, and I think it specified 2 categories of students, then that tells me that you're not speaking about every student who is eligible. So I am further confused now because the messaging is so very different. I don't want to cast any aspersion here as to what is the motive of the people giving different messages. So do you want us to believe that anybody who wants to go to TAMCC can just walk in and access education at TAMCC? Do you want us to believe that anybody who wants to go to NULO can just go when you say it's free? Education is free, right? So I'm happy that the minister has clarified at the last sitting, because I did raise my concern about the different messages from different members of the government. So he clarified to say that they are not paying the full cost of attending NULO or TAMCC. What they are paying is the tuition. And then he refers to that as being transformational. Now, my understanding of that would be when there's a major change, right? So what is the change? As far back as I recall, the former administration paid tuition for students going to TAMCC and to NULO. The difference now is that this administration is saying whether you could afford it or you cannot afford it, we're paying for everybody. So if you're a millionaire, you're a billionaire, whatever, whoever you are, we're paying for everybody. Well, I am not going to criticize this, because if the government is in a position where they have so much resources, whether it be from the millions more that they are raising from CI or other sources, I don't know, right? And you have the resources and you could afford to do all these things, then I don't have an objection. But it leaves me a little bit baffled, because you don't have money to continue the 150 for the senior citizen, the blind, the disabled. You don't have enough money to continue paying them the 150 per month, but you have enough money to pay tuition for anybody who wants to go to TAMCC, whether they have or they don't have. That's probably a policy position. So that is really the only thing that is different. But I want to show you something else that is different under the new National Party administration. And I have to now conclude that this was really transformative. It was really transformational, because if this is transformational, then I have to now go back and say, wow, we've been transforming for quite a while. Because people who are not able to pay their tuition, hundreds of students got their tuition paid under the previous administration for many years. But not just their tuition. There are students who can have their tuition paid under this current program and still won't be able to go to TAMCC, still would not be able to go to NULO, because there is much more than just tuition. And I believe you may have heard me in the parliament make a genuine call. And again, what's the response? Now, I make a simple call to say, students who could not afford beyond tuition, we supported them with all the other fees that they had to pay, their transportation. And I said, I believe the government, based on its current spending, based on its priorities, I believe the government has sufficient resources that they can afford to continue what the previous administration was doing. And what is the response? Well, why they didn't do that all the years they've been there? And again, this is what confuses me. The responses, right? So let us use a practical example. A student who is going to NULO, who really wants to do plumbing, that student would have to pay an admission fee of $265. That student tuition is $750. So let me go back to the admission fee. The parent would have to pay the $265. The government is paying the tuition of $750. The parent would also have to pay the CVQ level 2 fee of $450. The parent would have to buy the tools for $650. The parent would also have to pay any other additional cost, which includes uniform, transportation, and every other thing that students would be expected to pay during that period. So this is what is going to be for 1 year. The government would pay $810 approximately, and the parent would pay $1,305. Well, in case someone does not know this, let me just say it. There are many people in Grenada that if they get the $810 paid, they still cannot come up with the $1,305. And that's just the reality of the situation. And all I was trying to say is be mindful as you pay for those who could afford to pay. Just try to remember that there are those who will not be able to afford the $1,305 in this example, and could you come up with a way to help them? Because if you're going to pay for those who could afford it, it must mean that you have the resources. So I'm saying, fine, pay for who could afford it, but consider those who will not be able to come up with the difference of the total cost.
So in essence, what the former Minister of Education is saying there is that they too had a free tuition program. The difference is it wasn't across the board. Right now, it's across the board. And the reason for not having it across the board is that the parents and guardians who can afford to pay tuition and all the other fees for their children was allowed to do so. I mean, I know the saying, if you could buy free milk, don't buy cow. If you could get free milk, don't buy cow. So they had to come up with their tuition and the fees, which they could afford. They could have afforded. So the difference now, it's across the board. However, what they did, that monies they were able to save from the parents that can afford, they use that monies to pay for the other fees, including uniform, transportation, and food allowances. I remember when I taught cosmetology, I had a group of students from the rural area. It was about 16 of them, all from the rural area. As a matter of fact, from St. Patrick. One was from St. Andrew, and all the others were from St. Patrick. And at that time, that was 17 years ago, these students were paying $16 a day for bus only. $16 a day. Now, if you do the math, that's almost $400 a month for transportation to get to town. When they got to St. George's, they got it. They didn't have to pay another bus. So transportation, uniform, food allowance, all of those were catered for. And let's not forget the SEED program, which also helps with the vulnerable, for parents who have students, vulnerable parents who have students and can't afford to send them to school. Let's continue.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know of young men that we took from the blocks and they went to NULO, second chance, right? They came out successful. You think if they had to come up with that $1,305, they would have ever graduated with a certificate? No, it's because we recognize they have the will, they want to go. If they had it, they would have come up with it, but they don't have it. And so we had a responsibility and obligation, I believe, to help these people to get a second chance. And that is what we did. But let me also make another fundamental point, because it definitely confirms that transformation has been happening for a very, very long time. Because under the previous administration, a policy position, a decision was taken that based on the challenges that NULO was having, and I'm using NULO as an example here, based on the challenges that NULO was having, that we were going to increase the government subvention to NULO from $50,000 to $75,000, right? So that increase was done. But we went a step further because we realized that more people wanted an opportunity to upgrade themselves, but not only because they wanted it, recognizing that we have a responsibility to make education accessible to those who cannot afford. This is what was done. A project, a special project in partnership with NULO, even after we added $25,000 more. And I want to give some credit here, former minister that has had responsibility for skills. So I was making the point that in addition to that additional $25,000 to NULO, added to the $50,000 that we were already providing to them as support in the Ministry of Education, the government approved and provided almost $1 million, over $800,000, to allow students throughout Grenada who could not afford to go there. And that is in addition to the regular students that government was funding to go to NULO. This was a special program that anybody could have accessed. Whether you walk off the street or you're unemployed, you have 2 children already and you want another chance to further your education, those opportunities were provided. So to make it seem as if we're introducing tuition for everybody, and that by itself is transformational, I don't ever remember a student coming to see me wanting support as parliamentary representative to go to NULO, and we would have turned them down. The government made resources available to support students. As a matter of fact, many of them, and NULO could confirm that, many of them got in before government was even able to finalize payments. Why? Because some of them came on the 99th minute, and you have to call Sister Margaret, oh, she's an angel. You have to call and say, well, this student and that student really want to get in. The process of getting the payments approved and forwarded to you, could you allow that student to start? So many of them, right? And all I am saying is that the previous administration paid far more than just tuition in the past. And I'm saying let us continue that for the people who need it.
Sometimes all it takes is proper planning. Proper planning is essential. We continue.
Both in terms of the needy assistance program, students were assisted with transportation at all levels as far as possible. So there were students who benefited and this is outside of the SEED program here, right? Additional students. So you didn't get through yet with the SEED program to get the transportation and other support. There was a facility through the needy assistance program where we assisted these people from primary school all the way up to SGU. So even beyond TAMCC.
I know that I would have loved to hear something like that on the campaign trail for 2022, instead of give me the thing and wait the day. It's all about proper PR as well. So I hope both parties learn from this and let people know what they're doing. Let us hear. I did not know, and I follow the politics. I mean, for years I've been following, and I did not know that this was happening before I saw this interview. And I know that most of you didn't, and I thought I'd share it with you. Very interesting, very interesting. I to add a testimony to what the former Minister of Education said there, with parents not being able to afford the fees. A friend of mine was going through a community, a village, on the 4th, I think it was, when school reopened that Monday, and he saw a young man, by the street, who looked as if he was of school age. So he stopped and he asked him his age. He was 14. So he said, "Why aren't you in school?" And he said to him, he has nothing to go to school. He said, "What do you mean you have nothing?" He had no uniform, he had no book bag, he had no books to put in a book bag. He had nothing. And so he asked him why. He said, well, he's living with his stepdad, and his stepdad has other kids of his own who he's trying to send to school and can't afford to send him to school. So he decided he was going to take him home. He was going to talk to the stepdad, and he was going to adopt that kid's school year. Well, there's 5 years in secondary school. He was going to pay for him for his schooling, whatever he needed. That was not included in the tuition, of course. And so he went ahead and he bought the books. He bought school, the uniform, shoes, and socks, everything, books, notebooks, whatever the kid needed. Mind you, he was just going into Form 1 at the GBSS. He, I'm guessing, is one of the kids who wasn't so academically inclined, didn't pass the common entrance before, but with universal education, he's getting into the secondary school at 14, Form 1. And so he got all his stuff for school, and the gentleman actually took him to school the next day. A good Samaritan that it was. He then had to pay fees of $130. And I have the check leaf to show you. $130. I don't know what the fees was, if it was tuition, if it was other fees, but he had the fees you see there to GBSS, $130, right? So this kid was doomed from the start if this gentleman didn't decide to stop and question him, because he didn't have uniform, he didn't have books, he didn't have nothing. And they still would have had to pay $130 to get him into the GBSS. Some things not adding up, something is not right. And as I said, all it takes is proper planning and not the rush to prove a point, because nobody knew of this this universal education and the payment, the fees, the tuition, free tuition fees program, right up until it was said a few days in the Senate before school opened, at both times. The universal education, we heard of it a few days before the common entrance came out. Proper planning. It's all well and good, but if it doesn't benefit the majority, what's the point? And if it's benefiting people that doesn't need it, then what's the point? We'll take a quick break and come right back. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Mount Pure natural mineral water begins as rainfall, which percolates through the untouched rainforest and rocks of the Roll River Mountain. This natural filtration system protects the water from pollution, giving us a unique collection of minerals from the natural underground artesian aquifer. The water then flows naturally to the surface under pressure without pumping. As it reaches the surface, it is directly piped and bottled at our processing facility. We ensure that the water stays pure and safe so that it is ready for you to enjoy the excellent taste and natural health benefits. Not all water can make the grade when it comes to natural mineral water. Mount Pure offers a consistent composition and purity, so we can tell you exactly what you are drinking. Mount Pure guarantees you a perfect taste every time. Don't say water, say Mount Pure. Taste the difference. Enjoy the benefits.
Welcome back to Simon Says. One of the things we missed was in the last couple of episodes was the sitting of the parliament, both the lower and upper house. Of course, I kind of stay away from the lower house debates. I get anxiety and it's just hard on the ears and the confusion and the bacchanal and the speaker not being able to moderate properly and speaking loud and shouting. I can't handle it. So in the Senate, the debate is so much better and so strong. It's so easy on the air for the most part to listen to, for the most part. And on August 29th was the sitting of the Senate where the House met to support the supplementary budget. Of course, I should say the leader of government business and his colleagues, because we know the ayes always have it in the House. So the ayes had it, and the bill was passed in the sum of $148,990,234 EC dollars. Of course, as I said, the ayes had it, and that was passed. I want to share with you snippets of that sitting, of course. I know that some of you have not seen it. I had to go back online to see it. I wasn't able to watch it live. And some of you missed it. Some of you don't have the access to it. The allocation, the leader of the government business in the upper house was asking for allocation of $7.5 million towards the 50th anniversary of the independence celebration, without knowing what the money was for or what was the agenda, at least the agenda. He didn't have that to share. And he boldly said, it's not ready yet, but they're asking for that sum because they don't want to have to come back and ask for more. So if they ask for less than that now and it finished, they'd have to come back and ask for more. We have a budget coming up pretty soon. Listen to the leader of government business in the Senate.
And so, Madam President, a budget of $7.5 million is allocated to this very important activity. Allocated. And I want to say allocated because the working committee that we have in place, they are in the process of planning and giving the details of what those activities will be like. And we want to make no mistake to come back to this house again when we get the details of the planning. One may argue the question, well, why you didn't do the detail first? Yes, we could have done that. But Madam President, we believe that if the fact that it was not done does not mean that we cannot cater for it. So we're going to allocate $7.5 million to this program. And also, I want to tell this House that this administration is a very accountable administration. And it will not be anything flying by in terms of abusing the $7.5 million. We will make sure that every cent is well accounted for this celebration.
I did say that for the most part, it's easy on the air. Moving right along. In the same sitting, the leader of government business spoke of the allocation for the Molinere project and why they needed to come back to the House asking for an allocation for that project. Listen to him again.
The Molinere Road is still a burden on the administration. It's a burden on the people on the western side. The amount of vehicles that the road in Mount Morris has to accommodate, Madam President, is outrageous. And we are hoping to bring this thing to an end as soon as possible. We had to redesign this road. The design they had was just not adequate. It just would not have answered the question that the people needed to be answered. And therefore, we have budgeted another $3 million to make sure that this project is completed in the quickest time.
I would believe you, Minister, leader of government business, that the design couldn't answer the question. I believe you fully, because I don't expect a design to answer a question. But what you just said there is a lie. And further to that, that lie was backed up in the evening news, the GBN evening news, thank you, GBN, by the Minister of MIT. Let's hear what he had to say.
As you can see behind me, there seems to be no ongoing work at the Molinere slippage project. Heavy equipment is on standstill and no workers on site. So why is the project on halt? We spoke to Minister for Mobilization, Andy Williams, for an answer.
The first design we had from for the Molinere project, it did not take into consideration the top of the hill that's by the road. So what happened is that some months ago, one of the water lines, the major water line burst, and the water went, it sprayed on top, and it has some of the debris coming down in full. So, but besides from that, you have debris coming down from time to time. Now, the second design that we are doing, that have just been completed, it took into consideration the debris coming down from on top. So basically, we had to redesign the whole project. And because of this, the project had to be halted for the time.
The minister further explained that the new design is now complete and work will soon commence on the project.
So the redesign is finished, and part of the redesign had to do with adding more piles to the road. So the piles are on the port now. We cleared some already, and we are in the process of clearing the others. When the pile is when we have completed clearing the piles, then you can look at work being started on the road. But basically, we had to do that because, if we had went with the first design, it would not have been proper. And we wanted to do a proper work on the Molinere Road so that we do not have to go back there again, to do anything. So right now we are confident that the engineers who redesigned the project did a proper job. And in my opinion, it's a better design than the first one.
Williams said the project will be completed in January 2024.
Engineers from all over Grenada to look at the plan, to really give their view on it, and they were satisfied with the new design that we have. So we are aiming to complete the project in Molinere in January coming. It costs a little more, but we think it's all for the better good of the project and the road. So MIT and the Ministry of Infrastructure met, and we decided to engage the residents. So in a week or two, we will be going out in the communities, talking to the people, and letting them know exactly what is the case with the Molinere road. But they can be rest assured that we are working speedily to ensure that the implementation is on time.
You hear lie? That is lie. Lie? That is lie. Mr. Minister, it was your engineers that went and juked down the top of the hill, the mountain, and caused the project to be on hold. You all started the project with what you met in the ministry. The plan, the first plan. You all started the project with the first plan. And you sent home to St. Lucia the contractors, and you decided to use your engineers. In the first place, the project was tendered out because they didn't think the engineers in the ministry were capable of handling such a project. The St. Lucians won the bid, and they came and they were about to start. The election came, you all juked down, you got rid of the St. Lucian, decided to do it anyway, juked down. If you have to redo a plan, it's because you went and juked down the mountain on the top. But we can clear this up, Listen to the boss himself.
What happened is that the Ministry of Infrastructure itself took the decision to, I would use this word, interfere with the slope. Now, the original design that Beston had done did not include doing any work on the slope. They recognized that that was one of the risks. Their approach was that the slope itself had not come down, and that they, as much as they recognized that there was a risk that it could come down, they felt that the work could continue on the bottom side, that the road could be rebuilt without the need to have to interfere with the slope. The Ministry of Infrastructure took a different position and, in fact, went onto the slope. Now, obviously, on going on, the slope is unstable, and a significant work then would have been done on removing material from the slope, and that obviously would not have been part of the original design. And so, once that happened, it meant obviously that you'd have further delays because you are now dealing with the slope, which was not part of the original design, which also would not have been part of the contractor's scope of work. Right now, as that work went on, we would have had a change in ministerial portfolio. I would have been briefed on the matter. I myself went to the site, and having seen the site, it became quite clear to me that we needed to stabilize the slope, and therefore we could no longer proceed with the original design, which did not involve treating with the slope. And so what has happened since is that Beston, who was the consultants that did the original design, have been brought back in to look at the slope. They've provided designs that will deal both with the slope as well as the road itself.
Mr. Ministers, Mr. Leader of Government Business and Minister of MIT, the Prime Minister and Minister of Infrastructure said the engineers interfered with the slope that they wasn't supposed to interfere with. That's why it was not part of the previous plan, because it wasn't supposed to be interfered with. So now that it's shaky and coming down, they have to redo the plan to take care of that. And that is where the delay come from. He went on to say in that interview that it would incur added cost, because of course you have to add to it, to the plan, and fix what was interfered with before. There is no reason to lie. And that's the thing that bothers me the most. You guys lie for no reason. There's no need to lie. It happened. You all have to pull back and go back and put your tail between your legs and call back the St. Lucians. it going to cost us more, and just say that. Or don't say nothing at all. The leader of government business didn't have to say why they needed more because they have to redo the plan because, according to them, because why? Because y'all interfered with it and choked down the hill. But who's me? The Prime Minister cleared it up. He cleared it up right there. And I need some help to speak about all your lies. I go ask Citizen Rollo to help me with that.
Good morning, Mr. Joseph. Good morning. Listen, Mr. Joseph, it is often said, when people refer to the fact, to that of telling lies as deceit, Mr. Joseph. And you know there was a poem which I referred to, or there is a poem which I referred to, first two lines of Walter Scott of years ago. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Now we're ready to go, Mr. Joseph. About 5 weeks ago on this here station, a news item came through relating to projects and financing that Grenada lost as a result of quote-unquote bad implementation or non-implementation of projects and so on. Now we lost up to one time it was 30, next thing it moved to $92 million from a British program of the British government. But you notice that was spread out and so on. We had certain so-called ministers for the Massachusetts Institute of Technology coming on and giving statement, and Grenadians snatched it up and ran away with it. Only yesterday I heard a news item that one of these projects just reappeared. They were it was recertified. The project having to deal with the water situation in the south of the island. I even asked your radio station, Mr. Joseph, I remember that morning vividly. I said, I heard this news item and I think that there's something that has not been said. And I urged you, I didn't give you a mandate or ultimatum as you had classified it to be or qualified it to be. But to investigate it and come and tell the people the truth. Yesterday we heard that in effect, the project wasn't lost, but it was put on hold. And the government of Grenada had official knowledge that that was the procedure. Some of the reasons were given last night on the news item. In fact, as I rounded up by the so-called permanent secretary on Mike somebody. The point I'm trying to make, Mr. Joseph, is that the people, the new administration are beginning to tell lies to the people again. Similarly to the organized crime syndicate that we removed from office and politicated from them out. Deceit, it is an evil thing to tell lies to the people. I wish they would put their act together and tell us the truth. The project was never lost, but of course they had to run on the other one. That is the name of the game. Run on the other one so that they can look good. This project was never, and they knew it. Because the documentation that came through the government and the pertinent authority responsible for implementing the project is there written. That is what I was referring to. Because you see, not only GBN give news is given in other parts of the world and to other platforms. They're beginning to lie again, but they don't even have the respect to come and admit that they lied to the people. But they came up, they began now defending themselves. They say, no, excuse me, but I can't take this thing anymore. I think the so-called Prime Minister, Mr. Andy Mitchell, not Andy Mitchell, Andy Williams should come and apologize to the people. Mr. Joseph, I just wake up and nearly missed the program. But anyway, I will talk about it again. But lies the line again, and I can't take that. Have a nice day. Have a good one, citizen.
A lighter moment. But the lies are becoming pathogenic. It's crazy. There's no need to tell all these lies. Just let's get this thing going. We yet to get this thing going because it's a set of lies, it's a set of wrongdoings because they can't do it. The people they hire cannot do it, but they hired because of tribalism and nepotism. And so a set of wrong pegs in square holes, they cannot do the job. And then when it starts unraveling, they start to play the blame game. We take a quick break and come right back.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. So by now, most of you would have heard of the accident that happened on Saturday, the 2nd of September in the village of Willis involving the notorious minister Ron Redhead and a young man who was riding his bicycle together with his friend. They were riding their own, each of them have their own bicycles. And there was a so-called collusion, and the young man got injured. Now, it was never my intention to speak on Simon Says about this accident, incident, whatever you want to call it. But the comments I've been noticing on Facebook amongst the supporters of Minister Ron Redhead and his government was appalling, to say the least, because we were not speaking about Minister Ron Redhead running over a box somebody might have left in the street with their vegetables or what. Because I noticed I didn't say a dog, because if you run over somebody's dog, you better make up your mind you have to compensate them for it. And all sorts of names you'd be called being inhumane to run over a dog in the street and kill it when there was no oncoming traffic. And we know the safest thing to do in most cases is to swerve or stop until the dog gets out of the street. These days, them dogs taking their time to cross the road, or if they're lying in the street, you have to stop and blow them, and they get up and take their time and stroll across to their home. Further to that, the Transformers, in an effort to justify their minister running over a young man in the street, went and got a video and put it out there to show that the young man was in the street with his bike, and on the minister's side, and that's how the minister ran over the young man. And it was not the minister's fault, but it was the young man's fault. He was wrong. And the story became a wrong and right. And of course, it became a green and yellow bantering on Facebook and social media. So I thought I would speak to it. And before I do so, I had a sit down with the mother of the young man. Well over 2 hours, we had a good chat as to exactly what happened. And we'll hear what the police had to say, the whole shebang, in a précis, as short as I can do it. But let's take a look at the video, which I got permission from the mother to show to you, because some of you may not have seen it as well. It's on social media, not everybody on Facebook and so. So, and I want you to look, just do not take your eyes off the blue SUV that sped by. Keep your eyes on that car. Look at the back, look at the brake lights. Just keep your eyes closely on that vehicle. Now we saw the blue SUV speeding along. The first young man on the bike, I don't know if you noticed, he came very close to colliding with the vehicle, or the vehicle colliding with him. I don't know which one, but he almost got hit by the vehicle, by the blue SUV as well. That's the minister's vehicle. We saw the young man in the street, and we saw the vehicle hitting him, or they said him hit the vehicle. Whichever side you listen to, you get different stories. And we have not heard anything from the police as yet. Official, I should say. Nothing official from the police. We saw the young man getting up, obviously in shock, ran to the side, tried to stand up, was unable to, went and made himself comfortable lying on the floor, the steps leading up to the business place. We saw Minister Ron come from his vehicle, from around the corner, wherever he managed to stop, pull up the guy, the young man, and had him follow him to his vehicle, walking with an obvious limp, which means he was in pain. Walking with an obvious limp behind, then alongside the minister, all the way, without the minister even holding his hand. We also saw the minister remove the bicycle from the road without putting a mark in the street. I guess, police ain't gonna come because he's Minister Ron Redhead, and the police can't touch him, the notorious Minister Ron Redhead. We also notice, if you look closely, and I know it's going to be on YouTube, so you can rewind, you can go back and look again. There was no brake impression. Not when he almost hit the first young man. And for those of you who are drivers like myself, you would know that if you almost hit someone, the obvious thing, it happens unconsciously. You step on the brakes, you stop, or you swerve, and sometimes continue going. There was no swerve, there was no brake light, he just continued going and then hit the other one that was behind him and was on the ground with his bicycle. I mean, it's not an ant. A 14-year-old boy and a bicycle, a big bicycle on the ground in the street, and no oncoming vehicle. Whether the guy and the bike was on Minister Ron Redhead's side or not, if, in my opinion, he was paying attention, he would not have run over that young man. There was room on the other side for him to swerve. And if he had stopped when he almost hit the first guy, then the one he ran over would not have got hit at all. But we show in video. We leak in video. The video was leaked, We leak in video. I want you to look at this still shot. I want you to look closely where you can see the first young man up on the vehicle on the side, right, of the car, right there. Look at the brake lights. No impression, right? And then look at where the other young man and his bike is in the street. And that is what bothers me when I see that. And when I hear the comments that God is good, but I want to say that God is good all the time. And to all of us, it's not some. And God was good to that young man because the bike didn't get touched. It was him who got run over and dragged. And it could have been a lot worse. He could have been crippled. It could have been another vehicular homicide. Right? God was with him. So God is with Minister Ron Redhead, and who God, what? No man curse. Who God bless, no man curse. And as one member, and I had to make note of this, a former executive member of the council, the National Executive Council of the NDC, who has 3 boys, 3, all under, I think, voting age. Maybe one might be just about there, but the other 2 way under voting age. And who sons could be in the street and get knocked over. And this is what he had to say. Well, here is the incident for all those who are hyperventilating with political asthma and buzzing about what they could not see. Much ado about nothing. Much ado about nothing. The Government Information Service put out a statement speaking of the collusion and saying, thankfully, no serious injuries have been reported, but as a precautionary measure, the young man was taken to the hospital. And I'm saying to you now that this young guy got his pelvic bone fractured. He has to lie in bed for a month to start. He can't go to school. And you know, there was a rumor before that he got his one leg broken, one arm broken, and they were saying, oh, I know, you see, they're spreading rumors. Yes, it was a rumor. It was false. But that young man could have gone to school with a broken leg or a broken arm. He can't go to school and sit down because he had his pelvic, and they can't put a cast on it, so that he has to lie and let it heal back. And any extra movement and pressure on it could cause it to get worse. So it's not, don't trivialize what happened. Minister Redhead had the right to take the young man from the hospital to home, not from home, from the street to the hospital. Let me make that clear. And had him limping along behind him to go to his vehicle. He couldn't even back up his vehicle to pick up the young man and lift him up and put him in the car. No, he had him walking behind him. This thing is not about who's wrong and who is right. The humane thing to do is to speak to the mother of the boy, of the young man, is to call her on a daily basis and find out how he's doing, is to find out if she had bills. You was at the hospital when she had to get 9 x-rays done. She said, luckily they charged her for 5. You didn't ask a question. And somebody said if it was a normal, a regular Grenadian, they would have understood. No, because regular Grenadians don't do that. Once they hit somebody wrong or right, most people put themselves out on a daily basis to make sure the victim is okay and that his family are okay as well and can afford. The minister, as I understand it, refused to give his insurance certificate and information to the police, and they let it slide. And as far as I understand, of course, again from the mother of the son, that he was charged with driving with a due care and attention, which is obvious. I don't care which side he was on. It was obvious that he was distracted. And indeed, he told the police that he was distracted by a phone call. And that is why he didn't see the first guy. So he couldn't to stop. And he didn't see the second guy. But I have to conclude that he didn't see the kids on the street, because that accident could have avoided. Yeah, I hear the story. It's accident, and accident happened. It could happen to anybody. But there are accidents that can be avoided. How many times as a driver you driving down the road, the street, and see a vehicle coming towards you on your side, and you swerve, and you stop, and you put your hand on the horn, honking? What are you doing? You understand? How many times? You don't just run and lick up a vehicle that's coming towards you because that vehicle is on your side and you have the right. No, that's not how it works. But then again, if Minister Ron did the exam, the written exam, to get his license and the driving exam, he might have known that. And it's not just about being right and being on your side. He might have known that if he had studied the highway code to get his license. We are enabling wrong. And no one is above the law. And so I await a statement from the government of Grenada through the same GIS, or maybe a press conference, and from the police. Yesterday they were asking the press conference about it, and the inspector, whatever he is, Cohen, the officer Cohen, I'm not sure what his rank is right now. I'm sorry, I apologize. He said that he had no information. Get some information, Mr. Cohen, and come back and let us know where that case is. Because it didn't have to come to that, but arrogance. I'm a big shot now. Ooh, don't you know I'm the minister? Arrogance is have it where it is. And if it's true that you've been telling people out there you've been helping the mother, stop, or try and stop your supporters from saying so. If you didn't say that and they're saying it, because it is not true. And it's upsetting the mother. This young man's father died, and she has been mother and father to him. She has other kids. You gone up at the hospital asking her at the hospital in that where she's traumatized and worried and frightened for her child, if she had book bag for him. You didn't know she had to get book bag. That's a Saturday before school opened. You didn't know she might need book bag. You probably would have known because she had applied for voucher since last year, September, never got, reapplied this year. She has 6 kids, 5 of them students. Never got the voucher. She is a big time NDC. She's proud to say she's never voted for no other party but the NDC. And we say putting people first. Putting people first. That young man is a person. is an individual, is a human, is a minor, putting people first. I can go on. As I said, I sat with her for 2 hours. The crux of the matter is, this is not about NDC and NNP. One, this is not about Ron Redhead. So when all of you went up to the hospital and rubbing his back outside and say, God is good, don't worry, love, we love you. And nobody pushed their head inside to find out from the mother, how is her child and how is she doing? And it was all about Minister Ron. So much so that a nurse had to come and choke her and tell her, come and see something. You all out there patting his back. It is not about that. It is about that young man who could have lost his life, who could have been crippled, who might end up walking with a limp. It is about that child who's missing at least 1 month from school for now. Who cares? Minister Ron Redhead was on his side. He is right, but the young man is wrong. Who want to listen? We have to stop that. Y'all stick your head in the sand. Didn't even come up to find out what really happened. All you know, Minister Ron Redhead is right. Whether he wrong or he right, he right. We have to stop it. We have to stop it. It is sad. It is sad what we are doing and what the examples we are setting for our young people. You're a leader. Yes, you might be young. You put yourself there. We didn't put you there, like tell you to go and be a minister or a candidate. And once you go to be a candidate, chances are you can be an MP and you're in leadership role. But you're a minister, you won your seat and your government won, your party won. And so now you're in leadership position. So lead by example. That arrogance you have and have had, I've seen it. I sat with you in the same room once a week, once a month at least. And it's been like that. It's nothing new for me. It's nothing new for me. And so when I spoke, people want to know why. I knew that these things would burst the seams. It didn't take long, not even a year before you all start to behave so arrogant and stupid. The end is not here because of your arrogance. The end is not yet here with that situation. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. Thank you for listening to me. Always keeping them honest. See you next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Simon Says.
Mount Pure natural mineral water begins as rainfall, which percolates through the untouched rainforest and rocks of the Roll River Mountain. This natural filtration system protects the water from pollution, giving us a unique collection of minerals from the natural underground artesian aquifer. The water then flows naturally to the surface under pressure without pumping. As it reaches the surface, it is directly piped and bottled at our processing facility. We ensure that the water stays pure and safe so that it is ready for you to enjoy the excellent taste and natural health benefits. Not all water can make the grade when it comes to natural mineral water. Mount Pure offers a consistent composition and purity, so we can tell you exactly what you are drinking. Mount Pure guarantees you a perfect taste every time. Don't say water, say Mount Pure. Taste the difference. Enjoy the